The news conference is set to start at 10 o'clock. We're about 5 minutes out. This is Don McGavin, the Flint Journal. We're live from Flint City Hall. Again, we are live inside Flint City Hall. News conference is at 10 o'clock. This is Flint's future.
All right, excuse me, sir. All right, exactly.
Little old Some people really need it. Do things bad. Welcome to Flint's finest, people. All the snakes are here.
Better think about the bottled water. They won't drink the real stuff. That water's going to be
All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I want to thank the media for coming out today to get this information. I see some of our community leaders out here. I see some city council members that are here. And I see that the pastors are in the house today. And I appreciate you. It always makes the house better when you're here. So thank you all for coming. Standing before me today is from the governor's office, Rich Baird. I have Bob Kaplan from EPA. I have Sue McCormick, where are you, Sue, From Great Lakes Water Authority, the Drain Commissioner, Jeff Wright. I have John Young, retired President and COO of American Water Works, and Keith Cray, who was formerly with DEQ, who is now the Director of Michigan Department of Natural Resources. So that's who's standing up here, and I appreciate them being here with me today. I just want to tell you that as the city of Flint continues to transition from the water crisis through the recovery phase and look toward the ultimate water source selection, I maintain my commitment to making sure that the residents of Flint are informed and that you have the most up-to-date information on Flint water efforts and overall progress. Today, I want to share with you my recommendation on how Flint moves forward by identifying its long-term primary and backup water source. But first, I do want to update you on the progress of Phase 4 of the Fast Start program that kicks off this month, because getting the lead out of Flint is another piece of healing our community and our water system. As you know, or if you don't know, let me tell you that my plan is to replace lead-tainted service lines at up to 6,000 homes this year, and that the state has committed up to $97 million to investigate at least 18,000 service lines over the next 3 years and remove them if there's any lead or galvanized pipes. So this definitely puts us on a solid path forward. To date, we've replaced service lines of 855 homes and investigated an additional 235, which were found to be copper to copper. We're pulling lead lines as we speak. That's still going on. So I really need to give a thanks to W.T. Stevens, to Goyette, to Lang, and to Waldorf. We're going to continue to prioritize pipe replacement work in areas of the city that are most likely to have lead service lines, where a significant number of young children live, and where seniors live. We have 4 crews that will work in each of the 10 zones around the city to replace the lead service lines in 2017. We have a lot more time to work this year. We got a late start last year. We have a lot more time to work this year. So the pace of the service line replacements will be much faster, and progress should be more noticeable than it was before. That's what you should see. We plan to have every lead-tainted service line in the city replaced by the end of 2019. So in addition to pipe replacement efforts, the city has been hard at work reviewing analysis of our long-term primary and backup water source alternatives. We've been reviewing complex legal, engineering, operational, and regulatory issues. But it was important, it was very important that we took our time to get this right. So we've been working on this for 6 or 7 months now. It was that important that we took that much time. We've analyzed over a dozen different water source options. In the end, protecting public health is our primary consideration, along with addressing social and economic concerns being the driving factors in our decision. So with that in mind, I am recommending that the City of Flint stay with Great Lakes Water Authority as its primary source of water. Now, let me finish. Let me share with you a few of the critical and strategic factors that played a vital role in forming this recommendation. When we, All of the public health and regulatory experts that are standing here with me today, and some of them are sitting in the audience, when we considered public health, we didn't want to subject residents to another switch. So staying with Great Lakes Water Authority means Flint doesn't have to switch its water source again. So this protects residents from any potential fears or anxieties that will come with another change in our water source, especially at a time when the water has improved and is now meeting federal and state action level standards. Ensuring the public's health and safety is our #1 top priority. The second thing, this recommendation is the lowest cost water solution, which will minimize rates in the future. Additionally, a few cost-saving benefits under this recommendation include: it's going to allow the federal funds through the Drinking Water Revolving Plan program to be spent on updating the water's aging and deteriorated distribution system, where we know we're losing 35 to 40% of our water. So Flint, guess what else that does? It returns the valuable 72-inch transmission line asset back to Flint.
Yes.
So in other words, we got our pipe back. Along with getting our pipe back, this recommendation will eliminate Flint's current 28-year, $7 million a year payment to the KWA, which was a heavy burden on the city. It eliminated that. And as a Great Lakes Water Authority customer, Flint will have access to a low-income assistance program to help residents with their water and sewer bills. Yes. There's another thing. With this recommendation, we are enhancing the reliability of the Flint water system, because now we have a backup supply, and that's something that we've never, ever had before. We have our backup supply. So next, not only will staying with Great Lakes Water Authority provide excellent public health protection and be fiscally responsible, but it also has the quickest implementation time of any of the other water source alternatives. So again, the water quality has made significant improvements over the past year, and we don't want to risk the water quality gains that have been made. We can't do that. Finally, the recommendation that I am proposing is truly a partnership, as you can see, with everybody standing here and seated there, between the City of Flint, Genesee County, the Great Lakes Water Authority, as well as our state and federal partners. And I'm just going to be honest, I can tell you that this collaborative effort did not start out very smooth. We argued, we fussed, we blamed each other, we pointed fingers, but when everybody came to the table, we had to put those things aside. And we had one common goal, and that was making sure that the residents of Flint have access to clean, affordable drinking water. So this plan is a win for the residents of Flint, as well as every partner that's involved. We all win with this. So after months of research and analysis, the recommendation that I just summarized it's the best option as far as protecting public health, addressing social and economic concerns, and being fiscally responsible. But it doesn't stop here. I want to hear from you, the residents of Flint. I need to hear from you before any water source plans are finalized. Your feedback is going to be important in how we move forward together as a city. It's absolutely critical. So that's why hosting a town hall meeting. It will be this Thursday, April 20th at 5:30 p.m. It will be at House of Prayer, Missionary Baptist Church. That's 1851 West Carpenter Road. I want to thank Pastor Stewart for opening up his doors for this. We have to get your feedback. We have to answer questions. We have to hear what your concerns are. And it's critical that we obtain valuable public information and input prior to finalizing the water source selection. So with that, I am going to step back and I am going to have Rich Baird come up. I know he has a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. I've followed her on the scooter and it has a very good forward, but the reverse doesn't work quite so well. I'm Rich Baird. I work as an advisor to Governor Snyder. I'm a former Flint resident and a Flint native. And although I work for the state of Michigan, I'm very proud today that Flint, Michigan was and is and has been my home. On behalf of Governor Snyder, I want to reaffirm the state's commitment to the city of Flint and its residents. And we are here not just to help in the water crisis, but when I was a kid growing up, the quality of life in Flint in the 60s and 70s afforded me great opportunity. We want to work with the residents of Flint and with the leadership of Flint Mayor Weaver and her team on the quality of life issues, jobs, the economy, education, safety, infrastructure, all of these things. And we are here for the long haul. Today's announcement talks about the importance of partnership. And it is that partnership at all different levels that helped in the recovery of the city and provided the residents with resources. And I really want to point out one thing the mayor said. The complexity and the moving parts and all of the people and organizations and the leadership of these organizations that needed to come together in order to enable this announcement and this strategy and this direction was nothing short of outstanding. And I do want to single out folks from Genesee County, Drain Commissioner Jeff Wright, his team. I want to single out Great Lakes Water Authority, the KWA, the City of Flint, the State of Michigan, and the Environmental Protection Agency, who's here represented today. The recommendation that the mayor has put forth not only has Flint positioned to build a state-of-the-art 21st century water distribution delivery system, but it allows us to take the funds that have come to Flint, right-size the infrastructure, equip it with features like real-time metering, smart metering, equip it with water composition, real-time testing. We can put technology around all over the city so that at any given moment you can determine the composition of the water coming into the system. These kinds of things coupled with new pumps and new technology and equipment truly will position Flint to be the bellwether when it comes to infrastructure and water delivery. It is a very big deal. Now, we're all working very hard to continue to ensure the water quality and to enhance it. But that's not enough. Again, we need to attract jobs here. And I'm very proud that working with the mayor, a team, the Chamber of Commerce, there is a great deal of capital that is about to come to the city. And that's going to be great for this community. It's going to be great for the residents. And as I said before, we're going to continue to focus on those things that drive quality of life in Flint, Michigan. I'd also like to talk just for a moment about some of the heroes from the water crisis. The Community Outreach Residential Team, the CORE program, Resident Education Program. These are Flint residents that have been out talking to our residents about using filters, about the program to remove lead service lines, and to help people understand that our water coming out of the tap is at or better than federal standard, but with all of the construction going on, it's important to use filters at the tap, and that's what they've been doing. So I'd like to just shout those folks, give those a shout out, and I'd also like to say they are heroes of Flint, and a lot of community members here have been heroes of Flint. And this has been a very difficult period, but this announcement today culminates, again, a partnership by organizations. It's a leadership agreement to go forth and get the necessary agreements from City Council, from the boards, from the stakeholders, and as the mayor said, we need to also get the feedback from residents as part of the public hearing process. So Michigan is committed to make sure that Flint becomes and sustains a thriving environment. I appreciate being a part of this announcement. I also appreciate the fact that Bob Kaplan, the head of the region's EPA, came here today to talk about EPA's position on this agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Buddy Snyder, and right for us.
I don't think you heard me, bro.
Thank you all very much, and good morning. I'm Bob Kaplan. I'm the Acting Regional Administrator of EPA Region 5 in Chicago, and I just have a few brief remarks about this agreement. First, I want to address the order that EPA issued in January of last year and reissued it in November of 2016. The primary focus of that order was to make sure that what happened in Flint never happens again. And the idea behind that is to guide the process going forward. If there were to be a water switch, it was going to be happening in the most protective way. I'm very happy to say that all the partners that are represented here today got together and thought about the best long-term solution. And I'm not just talking about cost, although cost is a factor for some. The most important aspect from EPA's perspective was protection of public health. And that's exactly what this agreement here achieves, doing that. The most important thing that is accomplished by this is protection of public health. Water systems hate change. That's evident by what happened in Flint. That's what's happened in other places around the country. The most important aspect is if you are going to make any change, you have to do it correctly, thoughtfully, and make sure it happens in a way that's protective of public health. That's what people have done here today. People considered all the best options, as the mayor said. We didn't necessarily agree all at the table right at the outset. It was a 6-month process as we all got together and considered what was best for public health. And the ultimate solution was what's best for public health is to stay on the water that is currently being provided. That system has provided water for decades in Flint. It's worked successfully and is back working now within federal and state standards. So that's all good news. I'd say one of the most important things about this is that it didn't happen just because people wanted it to happen. It took leadership to effect. And that leadership really came from the mayor, from the governor, from all the water authorities involved. They all got together and considered not what was best for each individual entity, but what was best for the collective whole. That was a long process. It was one that considered lots of different alternatives. There were lots of different permutations of it. And again, to reiterate, the one that we landed on was a win for the citizens of Flint. It was a win for public health. I want to just say that EPA is here for the long haul. It's what the last administration promised. It's what this administration promises. We are here to ensure that everything going forward happens in the best way that is most protective of public health. Thank you very much.
Before we open up for questions from the media, I have to invite somebody that is very special, Mr. John Young, to the podium to give some brief comments. When I met John, I didn't know who he was when I met him. And I kept listening to him talk, and I said, wow, he sure knows a lot. Where did he come from? So let me just tell you a little bit about him, because we are so fortunate to have him at the table with us. He's the retired president and chief operating officer of American Water Works, the largest water and wastewater utility in North America. He's a 40-year water industry expert, and John has been assisting the city. He's been working with us night and day, making these things happen, helping us come come up with our alternative water source analysis, working with EPA on consent order issues, and working with our water utilities department. So we are so fortunate, John, we are thankful to have such a distinguished expert on our team. So with that, I would like John Young to, I don't know, come up here some kind of way, John. Okay, thank you.
Talk about privatization.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it.
Are you kidding me? You just said don't worry about privatization?
Is that what you really just said?
We know what you are. 40 years of love my ass.
Before I summarize the water source analysis that was performed and discuss the recommended water source solution, I would also like to congratulate the stakeholders and their staffs represented here today. Over my career, I've been involved with numerous water deals and water negotiations, and rarely, and I have to emphasize rarely, have I seen the level of commitment and cooperation that we have experienced with this group over the last few months. You should be very, very proud and thankful for the devotion of these people to this city and to this region. When we began this process of identifying the proper long-term water source for Flint, the mayor gave me very clear direction. Find a solution that best protects public health and this community, and by the way, make sure it's the least cost solution so it has a minimum impact on future water rates. And believe me, that was not an easy task. We have spent the last 6 months evaluating about a dozen short and long-term water source alternatives. These options include various combinations of renovating the existing Flint water treatment plant, purchasing finished water from the Genesee County Drain Commissioner, and/or staying on the current Great Lakes Water Authority water supply. And we have many of those options outlined in the handout that we're going to have for you today. So please pick up a copy of the alternative option evaluation before you leave today. It's always been very clear from solely a public health perspective that remaining on Great Lakes Water Authority water was the preferred option. As you heard from Bob, EPA supports that, DEQ supports that, and just about every public health official that we talked to supported that. Because whenever you switch a water source and expose pipes to a slightly different water quality, there's always can be some sort of a water quality concern. And obviously we experienced an extreme case of that back in 2014 and 2015 and are still recovering from that event. However, achieving the best water quality and public health solution did not appear to be initially achievable. Flint's access to the Great Lakes water was going to be lost by the end of this year. Several years ago, as many of you know, Flint had sold the 72-inch transmission main that supplied Great Lakes water to both Flint and Genesee County. The pipeline was going to become an important component of the Genesee County system when their new plant was placed in service this fall. Therefore, it seemed somewhat inevitable that we were going to have to switch to the new Genesee County water source. And while that water quality will be a great water quality, there certainly would be a concern again about switching water source. And also we had some concerns about whether the initial plant capacity for Genesee County was going to be large enough to serve the full requirements of the city of Flint as well as Genesee County. Fortunately, Genesee County stepped up big time. Thank you, Jeff. With financial assistance from the state, they agreed to lay a parallel pipeline to the existing 72-inch line, which gave Flint continued access to Great Lakes water for the foreseeable future. This parallel main hopefully will be in service by the time the new county plant goes online. And so we really owe a great bit of thanks to Genesee County, Jeff, and your entire team for your leadership. However, even after solving the problem of continued access to Great Lakes water, we still had the concern about the issue of cost and economics. Flint has a financial commitment to KWA of about $7 million a year, whether we use the raw water or not. Unfortunately, the raw KWA water from Lake Huron would be of limited value to Flint if Galiwa and Great Lakes water was chosen as the long-term water source option, which we all agreed was best from a public health perspective. Fortunately, Great Lakes Water recognized the value of retaining Flint as a customer and recognized the value of KWA water to improve the reliability of their existing customer base. So working very closely with KWA, with Genesee County, and with the City of Flint, Great Lakes Water has recently agreed to stand behind Flint's financial commitment to the KWA in exchange for access for Flint's water rights to KWA. So at the end of the day, with Great Lakes Water doing this, the best public health solution became the lowest cost solution. And we need to thank both Great Lakes Water and the KWA for their creativity and your concerns for the residents of Flint. Now, the handout that you will get here before you leave the room hopefully shows a number of long-term, interim, and backup water source options that we examined. There's about a dozen of them. And we ranked each alternative based on public health protection, cost, risk and reliability, and overall implementation time. And when you get the sheets, if you don't have them already, you'll notice that option 4, which is the one that the mayor is recommending today, has the highest ranking in each one of those categories. It's best from public health, it's best from cost, it's best from reliability, and it has the shortest implementation time. So at the end of the day, Mayor, I think we accomplished what you asked us to do.
Thank you.
And as the mayor has mentioned, our recommendations will not be finalized until we hear from the public and a 30-day public comment period is done. I believe this feedback is essential for the community to get feedback from a customer's perspective on what will be the future long-term water source of Flint, and it's really important that we answer all of your questions. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor for a question and answer.
So I think that I am going to have Kristen and Tiffany open it up for discussion. But I do want to say before I start, wait just a minute. Wow. You know what? Let me just say this. I can't change anything that happened in the past. I cannot do anything about it. You know, when I said we sat down with this collaborative effort, the things you all are doing right now, that's how we went in there. We were angry. But we wouldn't be standing here today if we had stayed that way. There were some things that we wanted. We wanted to stay on Great Lakes water. We wanted to get our pipe back. We wanted low cost. We wanted access to a low-income assistance program for the people, and we got those things. We got those things. So, you know, I'm excited about where we are
No
today.
KWA.
I'm excited where we are today because we're in a place where people didn't think we
Help
could
my
be.
housing.
So it is, it's going to help everybody. And so I'm excited about, let me talk please. I got the microphone right now. I'm excited about where we are today, and I'm proud of the work that everybody has done to get us here. So having said that, Kristen?
A few questions from media only, since this is a press event. Andrew, since you kind of jumped the gun.
I didn't hear what you said.
Drew Morgan, 25 and 566. A couple questions. $360 million in state and federal tax dollars just to end up right back where we are here today.
Right on.
You talk about savings. When are people in Flint going to see those savings in their water bills? And are any of you saying at this point that Flint's responsibility for KWA is gone because now LEWA basically is taking over Flint's share? So at the end of the day, is KWA off the books of the city of Flint?
Yes, bye, see you.
Okay. Excuse me, ma'am. No, you're
Oh, it's right to it. This was to do it.
Talking money?
Drew, how you doing?
You have to bring it up. You want accurate information.
Middle class, right here, got the score.
Right.
We anticipate holding and stabilizing
Middle class.
the current water rates that are in place today. We are avoiding a major water rate increase with this deal. So at the end of the day, we are anticipating and holding, and stabilizing the current rate and avoiding significant water increases in the future. Further, we're entering into a new rate study With that rate study, we will look at the rates, we will tear them apart, we will put them back together again, and through that rate study, we will, with these savings and with this new program, we'll be able to develop new rates. Further, what will happen is that this is just the first piece, okay? We have much more work to do, infrastructure, meter loss, and other utility issues that are out there, and working with the KW, working with GCDC and Galiwa, they have tremendous economies of scale, and we intend to leverage those.
So, Mr. Super, are you saying that at this point, the city of Flint can wash their hands clean of the KWA bond payment? Is it going to be on our books, or is it going to be paid for in Galiwa through the city?
The bond payment, Galiwa is going to be standing behind the city of Flint. So what will happen is that Galiwa will give us a credit on our water bill, and we will then, for the amount, dollar for dollar, for the debt payment that is out there.
I guess can you explain that a little bit further? They're going to stand behind you in what way? Like, how are they going to give us credits? How are they going to give us money?
Technically, it'll all be on the water bill. Okay, everything will happen on the water bill. So what will happen is this: is we'll get a gross charge less the debt payment that we've made on a monthly basis, and that would be the net payment due to Galiwa, and then we would then make a payment into. We're going to pay it into a trust, and that the trust will make the debt payment, and we'll make the net water payment.
If you were someone getting a water bill in the city of Flint, how would you explain it to yourself? Other than, I know you're a numbers guy, I get it.
Sure. You're not going to get a significant rate increase. I can't stress that enough. The numbers were astronomical with 2 water source payments. Okay, at the end of the day, that's the takeaway here. We are going to be getting a dollar for dollar credit on our debt through Galiwa, and your water bill for the next 12 months will not go up. And then what will happen is we'll do the rate study, okay, and we'll take it one step at a time.
So hopefully after a year, rates will calm down as far as water is concerned.
We shall see. We have significant meter loss issues and infrastructure issues, okay, and we have to deal with those. And that's why we're talking about, this is the first piece. We still have a lot of hard work to go, and we need to tackle the infrastructure and the rate billing piece. And with that, then we will see potentially see that type of rate being reduced.
And Mayor, can you address, are there any other upgrades that are going to be done to the water treatment plant at this point, or is that basically just going to be mothballed and you're going to use treating water from Genesee County as its backup?
So the primary source of water in the future will be coming from Great Lakes water. We will be pulling a small amount of water on a continuous basis from a backup supply coming from Genesee County. Those 2 waters will combine. It will be 95% or more of Great Lakes water. We do have the ability to add some chemicals like we are right now at the treatment plant. And as long as we have to add those chemicals, we will. Hopefully over a period of time, we'll not have to add any more. But the actual treatment plant itself, where we have ozonation and filtration and all of that, that will not be utilized in the future.
So all of the money that's been spent on the plant, tens of millions of dollars over the last 2 years, that's unfortunately at this point a lost cause.
You have to make a decision on what's the best decision moving forward. This is by far, from an economic public health perspective, the best decision moving forward. To kind of expand upon what David said, specifically on numbers, if we had stayed under the current rate structure with Great Lakes Water and had also the $7 million a year debt for the KWA, our annual costs for these 2 supplies would have been around $21 million a year. With the new structure, going on a long-term contract with Great Lakes Water, their costs are going to go down. Plus, we lose the $7 million. Great Lakes Water is going to be behind us on that. The overall annual cost is going to be around $12.2 million. So going from 21 to 12.2 has a significant impact.
Now, originally there was some negotiations before we touch on this. Are there any rate guarantees with Galiwa going forward? Because that was a significant sticking point way back a long time ago, $300 million before we started this thing.
That absolutely was a significant issue. We knew that we had, as the team putting the deal together, as well as we knew the residents of Flint would also have. I can say that Great Lakes Water is not Detroit Water and Sewer. When they were formed, they basically had a goal to stay within a 4% revenue requirement increase per year and not exceed that. They've been successful to do that. They've also, half of a percent of their overall revenue is going to go to a low-income program. That was not Detroit Water and Sewer, so we're working with a different entity here. We've done all we can do, and we have the same protection as all the rest of the Great Lakes water customers for future water bills. But that was a major issue that we took a look at.
Steve,
We have a seat on Greenville.
go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
I'd like to ask you to, okay, how does this affect KWA? Because obviously Flint was going to be a major customer, and you expanded the line to accommodate it, now you're not going to have this customer.
The question is, how does this affect KWA? Because Flint was and still is a customer. The way this is structured, it doesn't affect KWA. As has been stated by the mayor and by John Young, the financing that took KWA and the Flint part of this is still in place. So the $7 million that paid for the upsizing of the pumps, motors, and piping is still being paid. So from a financial standpoint, it does not affect KWA at all. A follow-up point to that is Genesee County Drain Commissioner's Office Waterway Services Division. This proposed arrangement actually expands the ability of Genesee County to not only supply treated water in an emergency to the city of Flint, but other communities on the Great Lakes system. We look at it as proposed as a win-win-win for all three communities if the verbal and other things that we've talked about come to fruition. It certainly will benefit Flint. It will benefit Genesee County, KWA, and the Great Lakes Water Authority. As it's been said, the negotiations have been going on for a long time, and the reality is what has came out of those negotiations, if they go to fruition, will benefit all of those entities. So it doesn't affect the KWA financially.
But the pipe was built for a certain amount of volume, and now you're not going to have that volume, correct?
The pipe is built for a volume that can be utilized not only by Flint or Genesee County, but Sanilac County, Lapeer County, City of Lapeer, and now potentially the Great Lakes Water Authority. We look at this as not a reduction in the partnership, but an expansion of the partnership as Great Lakes and KWA work together to make this happen.
Stephanie?
There was a mention by someone about the KWA possible concerns of being able to even meet the demands of Flint. Was that something that was discussed? And also still the monthly bills for you get from the city of Flint, that has to be a lot financial as well with KWA.
I can't speak for Flint's bills because my office has no jurisdiction over the billing or billing structure of the city of Flint. I think you may be confused about KWA and GCDC, Genesee County Drain Commission.
I guess I'm just meaning the usage of the water, that amount, that, getting that from the city of Flint going forward, that you're not going to get it, that's still a loss. But then also, what's the KWA prepared to meet with the demand of the city?
The KWA and Genesee County have, I think where you're confused is there was a request to ask Genesee County for a permanent water supply for Flint at 24 million gallons a day from Genesee County for treated water. And at the time we answered that request with, we don't know if we have the capability because the plant's not completed to actually comply with that request. KWA absolutely has the capacity that it said it had from the beginning, but those two things are not the same.
Ron?
I don't know who wants to handle this. I'm Ron Funger from MI, the Flint Journal. When the decision was made to build a pipeline with Flint and Genesee County, our water rates were the reason, and we we still have some of the highest water rates in the country. There's a cost that's estimated in these options that says this is going to cost us X amount of dollars. But does the contract that's being proposed with Great Lakes have any sort of guarantee beyond the initial rate as to what we're going to be paying for water from the Great Lakes Water?
I am not aware of any utility in the country that would guarantee a rate. Great Lakes has charges. We are at the wholesale level. And so what happens with local investment and local needs also affects a local rate. So I can't speak to rates. I'll speak to Great Lakes Water Authority charges. In the past 5 years, the organization that is now Great Lakes Water Authority has reduced our operating expenses by over $80 million. Within the last 3 years, we have reduced our debt service on our refinancing of bonds by over $600 million. We have been able to enjoy successfully performing on the promise that Great Lakes made at its inception, which is no more than a 4% increase in revenue requirements each year. We have a board that now represents the region and its customer communities with appointments from each of the 3 major counties, and the governor who represents, whose appointee represents all of our other counties and their communities. We are oriented toward doing 2 things. One is making sure that we continue to deliver on water of unquestionable quality. That's never been an issue. And secondly, to do that as effectively and efficiently as we can. And that's our promise.
Who can speak to the projected rates? This is a contract that's going to extend for 20 years, 30 years. How do we know what we're going to be charged once we're back to having this as our only source of water?
Well, I think Sue has appropriately addressed it. With Great Lakes Water, they've demonstrated their focus on efficiency short term. They certainly have the economies of scale and expertise of scale that's not available to Flint in the long term, so we would think efficiencies would come out of there. And I also want to say that while Great Lakes Water will be a small component of a significant component, but a smaller component of Flint future rates, there's other costs associated with the system. And one thing that's going to happen is we now, by not spending $60 million on our water plant, we now have the ability to spend that on our leaking infrastructure. And as we repair leaks, we will buy less water from Great Lakes Water, which will drive down overall costs. And Rich talked a lot about the technology. As we have the money to implement that as well, we will drive efficiencies to the system. So there's no way to guarantee what rates are going to be 20 years from now. I mean, we don't know what EPA is going to come out with as far as future regulations that might drive rates. All you can do is be as efficient as possible. And we've set ourselves up to be as efficient as possible with the money that's come down to help us do that for our system.
If we can't guarantee rates, then what is it that makes this a good decision compared to the decision that was made a few years ago?
If you take a look at the economics, and what we did, and you'll see it on the handout, is we did a 20-year projection on what we believe rates are going to be. And whenever you do any sort of financial analysis, you can't just look at it today and tomorrow. You have to look at it long term and basically do a present worth analysis. And that's what we've done. And by far, this alternative is the least cost. Now, granted, we had to make some assumptions. And the assumption we made on purchased water was on rates, let's put it this way, would be a 4% increase over time. We believe that can be held, but no water utility in the country, and I've worked with a lot of them, guarantees long-term rates. You can't do that. If you do that, you put your infrastructure at tremendous peril.
Just very quickly, do you assume 4% increase annually through the life of the contract?
For the life of the contract, yes.
Can't we get Nestle's rates?
Okay, we need to wrap up. One more question. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Carly. I'm with TATM, and so we've talked a lot about sort of water quality as a past tense issue in this forum here. However, it's not a past tense issue for people living in the city of Flint because a lot of times it's hard to find things that you're not looking for, and it's hard to find things that you're actively turning away from, like Legionella and Shigella in the Flint water system, which 12 people died from Legionnaires' disease as a result of the Flint water. The CDC found that. So how can you convince
So the first thing I say is on the lead issue, we know that lead has decreased significantly since the height of the crisis, and lead is now below the federal action level. So that's the lead issue. You also asked about pathogens. The key for pathogens, any pathogen that we're talking about, is maintaining a good chlorine residual in the system. And since day one that EPA has been on the job here, that's been our focus, is maintaining a good chlorine residual through many different avenues. It's operationally at the plant. It's also flushing the system. And I'm very happy to say, as of last Friday, we took a number of samples and came back with all very good chlorine residual throughout. So again, disinfection is the first line of defense. It's the most important thing with regard to any pathogen that we're talking about.
So you're saying there's no bacteria in this water?
That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is...
It's safe for citizens to shower in. That's what the EPA and the NDEQ sent out in letters. So that's safe to shower without a filter, and these people have been getting sick from this water. So is it safe or is it not safe?
What I am saying is that maintaining chlorine is the most important thing. And that's true in Flint, and it's true in any system across the country. Maintaining disinfection is key.
Have you ever released results of levels of Legionella or Shigella to the citizens of Flint, so they know whether or not there are significant amounts of those bacteria coming through their water? Have you ever released those results?
Have we ever released them?
Have you ever done that testing?
No, we don't do that testing.
Why?
That's the case. We don't do Legionella testing routinely across the
12
country.
people have died from Legionella disease in the
It's
city
not a
of Flint. Why
regulated.
you're not doing that testing?
It's as I said, it's not a regulated. The main line of defense, I keep going back to this issue, is chlorine. If there's any research, we will evaluate that research. We absolutely do. We're in touch with all of the researchers. We're in touch with the CDC, and I let the CDC and the HHS speak for themselves as to health concerns. We evaluate all the research, and our main tool, as I keep going back to, our main tool to combat this is chlorine residual. That's the main thing. You're mentioning Legionella. I mentioned any other pathogen. I mentioned E. coli. That's the same across the country. So if we're talking about Legionella, it is absolutely a fact. Anyone who's familiar with it can tell you that Legionella is found in most water systems. It's found in lots of big buildings throughout the country. As I was talking to some of our researchers at EPA, there's a research facility called Office of Research and Development. They did a test for it in ORD. They found it in water systems. It is in water systems. There's no question that Legionella is persistent, not just in Flint, it's throughout the country. Again, I go back to the main point, which is you've got to combat the pathogen. You've got to combat Legionella and all others. And the main thing that we have, the thing that we do, is a well-run treatment system.
So you're combating Legionella, but you're still not testing for it?
We don't test for it across the country.
Across the country, there are outbreaks of Legionella happening.
We will evaluate any research, and I say we, I mean the whole federal and state family. We are receptive. If any researcher wants to talk to us and bring their results forward, I've been in contact with the University of Michigan, with Wayne State. We will invite anyone to submit results to EPA and to HHS and to CDC. We have asked those researchers, should we be doing anything differently? We put that question point blank to the researchers. And what they told us, I sound like I'm going back on the same point, is to maintain the system, to maintain an adequate chlorine residual. That's what those researchers who are doing the research into Legionella and to other pathogens have told us. That is the most important thing that's I'm here telling you today.
All right, and on that note, we're going to wrap it up for the sake of time. Some of our speakers will be around, so you can catch them afterwards if you have a few
Question,
questions.
will they be at the town hall meeting?
Yes.
And it's very important because the mayor wants to hear from the residents of the city of Flint. And we want.
And that's where you need to ask your questions at the town hall.
And that they